This is the vocabulary breakdown for Chapter 4, and in Chapter 4 we learned about second declension neuters, so we'll be seeing a lot of nouns on this list. Our first word is bossium, bossi, neuter. It means a kiss. And if we look at our second word in the dictionary entry, cut off the genitive singular ending, we have a long I, and we know that the long I is the genitive singular for second declension. We can see that the gender is neuter, so this is a second declension neuter noun. If any of you are still having problems identifying which declension a noun is from, come chat with me as soon as possible, because I'm going to be spending a lot less time in these presentations going over identification of the declension. As I said, it means a kiss. And for those of you who are interested, at the end of this presentation, we'll be looking at a poem by a Roman author named Catullus, and Catullus was a love poet, so it's a love poem that talks about a lot of bossia, a lot of kisses. So for those who are interested, we'll look at that at the end of the presentation. This is a fun English derivative, basiate. It's just a fancy way to say kiss someone. Bellum, belly, neuter, we can see this is a second declension neuter as well, means war. So we get words like bellicose, belligerent, etc. Concilium, concilii, neuter, has lots of definitions: plan, purpose, counsel, advice, judgment, wisdom, etc. Use your best wisdom, use your best concilium when you try to decide which word to choose for translation. We get words like counsel or counselor in English, also from second declension neuter. Next word is cura, curai, feminine, and it means care, attention, caution, anxiety, not cure. So sometimes in Latin it can mean cure, but far more frequently, and in Wheelock, translated always as care, attention, caution, anxiety, not cure. Okay, this is from first declension feminine. We can see the AE right there. And we get quite a few words like cure, which is where you care for someone. Curious is someone who is full of attention about something. And then we get this fun word right here, sinecure, which is a job or position in which someone is paid to do little or no work. And if we break this word up, we get the Latin preposition sine, which means without. Here is cure. So literally, sinecure means without care, which makes sense because it's a job where you pretty much don't do much. Donum, doni, neuter, means gift or present. It is also from second declension neuter. Lots of second declension neuters, which makes sense for the chapter. We get words like donate, donation, etc., related to the verb do, dare from chapter 1. So make sure you link those two in your mind. Exitium, exitii, neuter, means destruction or ruin. And if we break up the word itself, we get ex, which you guys already know as a prefix meaning out or away or something like that. And then you'll eventually learn that this it right here essentially means to go. So exitium means to go away. So destruction means to go completely gone. It's no longer there. So destruction or ruin. Magister, magistri, masculine form, and magistra, magistri, feminine form. So this one is first declension feminine, as you can see. This one right here is second declension masculine. And this word means schoolmaster for the masculine, schoolmistress for the feminine, or just teacher, master, mistress, etc. Right here you see that this is one of those ER words that contracts. See how the E disappears? So watch out for that one. And we get words like magistrate, maestro, even Mr. and Miss comes from magister and magistra. So remember the split gender and make sure that when it's a masculine teacher, you use magister, and when it's a feminine, you use magistra. So I would be magistra Vanderhorst or magistra Becca, something like that. Here's the second half of the nouns we need to memorize for this chapter, beginning with mora, morai, feminine. It means delay. So for example, we have the word moratorium in English, which is a temporary prohibition of an activity, like a law or something like that. So the activity is held in delay. That's what moratorium means. Mora, morai is from first declension feminine. And then the next word here we talked about briefly in chapter 1. It's nihil, and it is indeclinable. And what that means is in the nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, and vocative, in all of the cases, it's always going to show up as nihil. It's kind of like a frozen form, if you will. And you'll have to use the context of the sentence to figure out which of these cases it is acting as. So that's how nihil works as an indeclinable noun. It's neuter, and like we discussed before, it means nothing. Next word, oculus, oculi, masculine, means eye, from second declension masculine. For the derivatives binoculars and monocle, literally what they mean is 2 eyes and 1 eye. So kind of fun there. Next word, officium, officii, neuter, means duty or service. Very popular word in Latin, so watch out for this one. And it's second declension neuter. Same goes for otium, otii, neuter, means leisure or peace. It too is in second declension and is also pretty popular in Latin. So keep an eye out for both of these nouns. I'm going to pull out the derivative negotiate for a second. It comes from a Latin word, negotium. And literally what this means is no, neg, otium, no leisure. But translated, it meant work or business or something like that. So otium meant leisure and negotium meant no leisure or work. Next on our list is periculum. Periculi means neuter. We get words like, it means danger or risk, and we get words like perilous, full of danger. Also second declension neuter. And lastly, remedium, remedii, neuter, which is also second declension neuter and means cure or remedy. All right, so this is the last bit of vocabulary we have for this chapter, and we start with a lot of adjectives. And now that we know what second declension neuter looks like, we now understand why every adjective in first and second declension has 3 words in its dictionary entry. So I'm just pulling out the top adjective here, bellus, bella, bellum, and each one gives us a different piece of information. Bellus gives us the nominative singular masculine form, bella gives us the nominative singular feminine form, and bellum gives us the nominative singular neuter form. So that's why for first and second declension adjectives, we have 3 words. Now also remember that all adjectives agree with their noun in case, number, and gender. Very, very important to remember that. So, bellus, bella, bellum means pretty, handsome, or charming. For example, the names given to a woman, belle or bella, just means pretty or beautiful. Embellish means to add things to something so that they look pretty. And be careful that you do not confuse this adjective with the noun bellum, which means war, that we learned earlier in the vocabulary. So careful, a lot of times you'll just have to use context to figure out if you have bellus meaning pretty or bellum meaning war. So watch out for that. Next, bonus, bona, bonum means good or kind. Humanus, humana, humanum means pertaining to man, human, humane, kind, refined, cultivated, etc. Lots of derivatives here, shouldn't be too tricky for you. Next is malus, mala, malum. It means bad, wicked, or evil. Once again, lots of derivatives. For example, malevolent is someone who wishes evil on other people. So a malevolent man or woman. Parvus, parva, parvum means small or little. Stultus, stulta, stultum means foolish as the adjective, but it can also be in the noun form of stultus, stulti, masculine, meaning a fool. So for example, I could say a stultus, we're a foolish man, or I could just use the substantive and thus the noun form stultus, which means a fool. So that's how that word came to be. So remember that there's an adjective form and a noun form for it. And then we've got verus, vera, verum, which means true, real, or proper. So for example, our adverb very just means real, real. And then lastly, we have two verbs for this chapter. Uo, or aduo. Uare, ui, utum is from first conjugation. You can see that long A right there. It means help, aid, assist, please. And then lastly, sum, essa, fui, futurum, the linking verb that we learned earlier in class when I introduced the chapter. That means to be or exist, and remember that its expectation is to have a predicate adjective or a predicate noun is the expectation for sum. Okay, so that is the end of the vocabulary breakdown for this chapter. The remainder of the presentation is completely optional. You are not required to continue listening. But for those of you who are following along, we'll be looking at Catullus number 5. So I don't want to go into too much detail about Catullus's life or his poetry, just to keep this as short as possible. But Catullus was a Roman poet who lived 84 to 54 BCE. And he predominantly wrote love poetry, and a lot of his love poetry was concerned a woman named Lesbia. And Lesbia may have been a pseudonym for an actual Roman woman whom Catullus associated with and loved. But regardless of who she was, Lesbia comes from the Greek poet Sappho. And Sappho was a Greek poet, like I just said, who lived on the island of Lesbos, hence why we have Lesbia. And she lived in about the 600s BCE. We know she died at about 570 BCE. Catullus loved Sappho's poetry. He really respected her as a poet, and that's why he chose to call the woman of his poems Lesbia. And as a side note, we get the word lesbian from Lesbos as well. Not from Lesbia, but from Lesbos, because Sappho, a lot of her love poetry was directed towards women and girls. So that's how we get the word lesbian. But now continuing to the actual poem itself, it says, "Let us live, my Lesbia, and let us love." So here you can see my Lesbia right there, mea Lesbia. And let us love. Here we have amemus, and you don't know that word, it's in the subjunctive, but it comes from the verb amo that you know, and you should recognize the personal ending for first plural mus, which is why we have let us love. So we have let us live, my Lesbia, and let us love, and count all the rumors of stern old men at a penny's fee. Suns can set and rise again. We, when once our brief light has set, must sleep through a perpetual night. This is just such a gorgeous image of the brevity of human life, of the ephemeral quality of life, that the suns and nature is going to just keep on going and going and going, where once we die as humans, then there's nothing more. It is night is one perpetual sleeping. You can see the one perpetual, this is sleeping. So gorgeous image, once again, like I said, of the shortness of life. So here's the part that I wanted to focus on. I'll switch to blue. Give me 1,000 kisses. It's right here. So da, you guys already know. Da is the singular imperative of do dare, so this is give. So give me, the me right here is a dative, so it's a dative of indirect object. And then bossia, which is the word from our vocab list this week, and why we're looking at this in the first place. If I asked you to identify this, you would say it's the accusative plural neuter. You see that A ending right there. And you'd say it's the accusative because it's a direct object. Give me what? Give me kisses, direct object. So bossia right there is the accusative plural neuter. Mille is 1,000. So give me 1,000 kisses, and then 100, then another 1,000, then a second 100, then another 1,000 without resting, then 100. So tons of kisses. And then it says, then when we have made many thousands, millia multa, we will confuse the count, lest we know the numbering, so that no one can cast an evil eye on us through knowing the number of our Bossiorum. So just a gorgeous poem about how life is so brief that Catullus just wants to seize the moment and kiss her and kiss her and kiss her, because he never knows if this moment is the last. So this is Catullus number 5. Very famous poem. The very beginning, let us live and let us love, is a very famous little phrase right there. So, Catullus number 5.